Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am tonight's entertainment.
Hey guys, my name is Dan, and I am super excited to be this month's featured statue collector. So what got me interested in collecting? Probably movies from early on. I'm a big Steven Spielberg fan. Love the Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jurassic Park movie properties, and those got my juices flowing as a young kid, and certainly sparked my imagination as an adult. Led to an interest early on years ago in movie prop collecting. Did that for a long time. Had movie props from some major films, but as you might imagine, that gets financially challenging. Kind of the bigger and more significant the props, the more expensive that gets, and so that got to be kind of a challenging hobby in some ways. Also started to collect some autographs, and really kind of did that organically. I would send letters to agents and actors directly requesting their autographs, and actually came back with a bunch of really cool ones from all three of those film properties. I have autographs, so that was really fun for a while too, and did that. And then it wasn't too long ago that I was introduced to Hot Toys. That was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. My wife and I are big pop culture fans together. A lot of the collecting that you'll see in the collection when I show you here in a bit is really my wife and I. We do it together, and as well as with my kids. As a matter of fact, in 2014 our family summer vacation was to San Diego Comic-Con, so that was a blast. But just to give you an idea, we kind of do this stuff together. But we were introduced to Hot Toys and started to bring some of those into the house, just in terms of decor. Really didn't have a collection room per se, but just to bring those into our house as decor, and then brought in some quarter scale statues and so forth. And by this time I had already kind of divested myself of film props, but started to do that, had a ton of fun with it. My first quarter scale statue was Sideshow's old school Batman. So the first Batman quarter scale was the first big one, and that really kind of sparked a ton of interest, and really kind of got my collection going, and kind of what the possibilities could be. And then we started to bring more and more pieces in. We kind of turned my home office that I'm shooting this from into our small kind of collection room, and things just kind of unfolded from there. So we began collecting a number of Hot Toys different film properties. So we had everything from Marvel to DC. We had a lot of Star Wars pieces in the collection. We had the Back to the Future pieces that in the collection that came out years ago. And as you can imagine, I'm sure a lot of you guys can identify with, we had kind of collection sprawl. So it started to go all over the place. Had everything. As a matter of fact, at one point I even started collecting some of the vintage Star Wars pieces, and it just got very big and very unwieldy very fast. So decided to slow that down, and I'll tell you more about what we currently have in the collection here when we take a tour in a little bit. But in terms of my favorite statue that I own right now, I'd have to say it's this guy behind me, the Batman Hush, and that's for a lot of different reasons. Hush, like I know it is for a lot of you guys, just from interacting, engaging with the community. Hush is probably my favorite Batman story out of all of them. I just think from the way that it incorporates such a wide variety of rogue villains in the story is fantastic. The writing is fantastic, and Jim Lee's artwork, in my mind, is second to none. From a creativity standpoint, from an innovation standpoint, as he envisioned and then put pen to paper on these characters, I just don't know that there's anybody better in the history of the medium. Quite frankly, I know that's a big statement, but it's how I feel. So Hush, I think Prime One, as always, did just a phenomenal job on the statue. The sculpt is beautiful, the paint is beautiful, and I know you guys, there's tons of great reviews, and Chris's review is off the charts good, and kind of speaks for itself, and I think speaks for all of us and how we feel about the statue. Just phenomenal. So in terms of a specific piece of art in my collection, and kind of what it means and what it means to me artistically, from a story standpoint, representation of the character, all of those things, I just don't know that you can beat that one. And there are others in the collection that I love as well, and that's a tough choice to make, but I'll show you around in a bit here. In terms of any piece I could have regardless of cost, that is a tough one too. One of the things that I've never had in my collection, well, there's a couple. One, I've never owned a bust, a one-to-one bust. I'm not sure I have the space for that. But the second thing I've never had is a one-to-one scale figure. And one that has always captured my attention is the full-size, full-scale Iron Man Mark III. To me, that is a landmark film, and I'll talk about our love for MCU here in a little bit on the tour. But I just feel like owning that kind of a piece, that's just got to be a complete statement piece in any collection, like more than a statement, right? So for me, that would be tremendously exciting. I would definitely aspire to that, and hopefully I don't bump into too good of a deal on that, so that I don't have to explain to my wife why we have an 8-foot carton, arriving to the house at some point. The Prime 1 boxes are big enough. In terms of if I could have a studio create a piece that doesn't exist today, that's also a tough one. I'd have to say it would probably be the Alex Ross Batman. Alex Ross's interpretation of DC characters and in Marvel characters as well is just, in my mind, phenomenal. I know, as many of you do, that Alex is often referred to as the Norman Rockwell of pop culture art, and I couldn't agree more. His interpretation of the characters, not only the realism that he brings, because that was certainly the mark that he put on the medium back decades ago, but his interpretation of the characters, the weight and gravity and gravitas that he brings to those characters in the way that he paints them, and his use of light and all of it is just tremendous. It just jumps to me off the page in a way that really no other artists do. And there are great artists, as many of you know, again, from engaging on the forums. I'm a huge fan of Gabriel Dell'Otto. I'm a huge fan of Adi Granof, and you'll see some of his work on the wall here in my office. And Jim Lee, of course, and many others. But something about Alex Ross's work, to me, is just different and different and amazing, and I just don't know that there's any better. I think there's a very good reason why he's the only pop culture artist with a piece of work hanging in the Louvre in Paris. Just kind of speaks for itself. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I am super excited to be this month's featured statue collector, and really appreciate Chris having me on the channel. And now what I'd like to do is take you on a little bit of a tour of my office / Wayne Manor North, as it is affectionately known, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Okay guys, welcome to the tour. Thought what I'd do is start here as you enter my office / collection room. This is off the main entry into the first floor of our house, where you encounter one of the newer additions to the collection, the battle damaged Prime 1 Batman Arkham Knight. Absolutely love this piece. I feel like he is about as pure a representation of the character as you can get. I am a huge, huge fan. Love the original as well. As you can see, I keep the fear toxin affected portrait on there that came with Scarecrow, who we'll see in a little bit. And then accompanying the Dark Knight here in our foyer is Alex Ross's Batman, or The Batman, I think this one's called, signed by Alex, which absolutely love that piece. So as we make our way into the office, a little bit of artwork. Some of these are local pieces, and I apologize to the artists, I don't know the names. This one I picked up at Rhode Island Comic-Con. My wife and I loved this artist's work, and I can't make out his signature and don't remember his name, so I apologize to him. As well as this other artist who we also picked up at Rhode Island Comic-Con. He does these kind of mock-up movie posters and does an awesome job. And then as we come in, I've got a couple of rogues flanking my front windows here. It's Prime 1 Croc.
This guy I find is a little bit challenging to display, not only because of his just massive size, height, width, girth, etc., but honestly, one of the pieces, and my room isn't gigantic, but it's also not small, but this hand sticks out quite a bit, and that fingernail right there, I don't know, I've watched people get way too close to him, so I've kind of put him off kind of to the side. He's a little bit out of the way. I'll step back here and give you a better view of that, the front of my office, but he's kind of out of the way. I've got my Hulk hands. Everybody should have a good pair of Hulk hands. My kids got me those things. You're going to see a few things in here from my kids and my wife. That's one of them. That was a Christmas present a few years back. And then as you can see, I've got my Freeze from Prime 1, which this one, actually even difficult to put into words how awesome this one is until you see it in person. I don't know, hopefully a lot of you guys have had the opportunity to see this guy in person. I apologize for the somewhat weak lighting in here. It's a little weird time of day. You can see the light filtering through my shades there, but yeah, Freeze is just a phenomenal piece, absolutely huge. One of my, it's not even a criticism, I guess it would just be an ask, would be, I wish they would have had this arm such that it could, that there was a switch out for it with the gun pointed upward, almost in the same position as Sideshow's new Freeze that they've announced. That would be really helpful, because this gun sticking out like that is just really, it makes it really hard to display. So that one's a little bit of a challenge, but as you can tell, this guy's kind of off to the side too, flanking my front window. Interesting idea. I don't know how many of you guys actually, just a little kind of pro tip I guess you could say, how many of you guys have windows in your collection room like I do? Got these giant windows. I just installed these Lutron Salina, shades, and these are powered wireless shades. Super easy to operate. You can operate them right from an app, and they do a great job. There's like 98.5% light filtering, or sorry, UV blocking. Sorry, UV blocking. My windows are also UV blocking, but with these it pretty much blocks everything. Anyways, moving on. So this corner is a little bit of an homage to my love of Spielberg and his films. As I mentioned earlier, I have a Herbert Johnson fedora. Herbert Johnson is the what do they call that? A haberdashery, I think they call it, a hat shop in London that made the original hats for the film. This one here was made by Herbert Johnson on the original molds for Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that one is kind of a cool piece. This is also, I mentioned my prop collecting years ago. This is a replica, of course, but an excellent one, plated in a faux gold, and just looks awesome. I actually absolutely love it. I've had that for, geez, probably close to, I don't know, 15, almost 20 years now. Long time. One of my other favorite pieces in the collection is this guy. I don't know how many of you remember Discovery Channel stores back in the late 90s. A bunch of malls around the country began to open Discovery Channel stores, and they kind of went out of business almost as quickly as they started. And this guy was hanging behind the register at the Discovery Channel store, and when they were going out of business, I used to visit that store a little bit. It was right around the time that Discovery Channel had come out with the Walking with Dinosaurs series, and when they were going out of business, I happened to walk in and I asked the store manager, I said, hey, you know, they were selling basically everything. I said, hey, would you sell that thing behind the counter? And he said, well, that's really just a display piece. It's really not a product that we sell. And I said, well, you know, it seems like you're selling everything. Would you sell it? And he said, surprisingly, he said, yes. And I said, how much? He said, how about 80 bucks? So this is probably a 1/5 scale, I would say, based on Chronicle Collectibles' new pieces and how big theirs are. This is that size, if not a little bigger. I love that it comes with both front arms, that it's really a true bust. It's really delicate, but this is also one that I've had for just a real long time, one of my favorites. Below that, you'll see a couple of pieces of art. There's one here and one in the case there. Those are from a Jurassic Park lithograph series from also the mid-1990s. They are signed by Stan Winston and Crash McCreary. Crash McCreary was the designer that did all the concept artwork for the dinosaurs that were used in the original film. So I think this was I don't remember how many lithograph sets they sold. It was pretty limited. I want to say it was around 700 or something, but pretty limited, and love the prints. They go well with these pieces, so those, there you have it. This dinosaur, this is a 1/10 scale T-Rex from Oxmox Studios in Australia. I don't recall the artist's name himself, but he does a phenomenal job. Again, it's Oxmox, O-X-M-O-X. Does these beautiful dinosaur statue dioramas. I also know that he has kind of dabbled in some superhero stuff. I think he's got some Iron Man work, but the quality of his paint and the detail in these pieces is unbelievable. These velociraptors that you see here, there's one there, and there's one in the T-Rex's mouth. Those are removable, of course, but he did a phenomenal job. These are all limited and numbered. I think this was one of 250 if I remember right. I don't recall exactly, but just a phenomenal piece. Absolutely love it. And then moving down into this small cabinet, I have Kenner's Velociraptor from years ago. This is a CinemaCast maquette, I believe they called it, and absolutely love this piece as well. This piece weighs a ton. Real heavy, solid piece. Unfortunately, I've broken the fingers a couple of times on him. Those are super delicate. Doesn't matter. I'm really not a seller or a flipper, so he'll stay in my collection. I glued them back, and they're good enough. And I have a couple of other dinosaur pieces from visits to the Field Museum in Chicago, where I like to, when I'm there, either on business or whatnot, I like to visit the Field Museum. They have a beautiful dinosaur collection there, featuring their centerpiece, Sue, who's the biggest T-Rex, most complete T-Rex ever found. She's 92% complete. Anyways, enough about dinosaurs. On to Batman. So this is one of the newest editions. You guys might have seen this posted last week in the Batman Statue Collector Forum. This is Alex Ross's Batman and the Gargoyles piece. It's about 20 by 30, I believe, roughly, signed by Alex. It's 1 in 100 giclée on canvas. So, love that. I have the Raiders of the Lost Ark original Sideshow quarter scale. It's a great piece. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this one, but there was some unhappy customers with this guy years back. His skin tone came really, really dark, and so I lightened it. So I think it came up pretty good. The artwork is from Brian Rood. It's the one of two Brian Rood pieces I have. I'll show the other one here shortly. This one, I believe, is called Redemption, if I remember correctly, featuring Indiana Jones. As we move to the next side of the room, I have Batman Hush, Prime 1, that I talked a little bit about. Absolutely love this piece. Just don't know that you get any better in terms of a pure representation of the character. Quality of the statue is off the charts. I do agree with a couple of the other guys that have posted reviews about the size of the base. You know, I'm not sure how necessary it was. Could be just an engineering requirement, who knows, but really cool. I have a piece of Jim Lee giclée artwork. My wife got this for me for my birthday while we were at San Diego Comic-Con. It's Jim Lee painted this when he was in Italy working for some number of months years back, and can't remember the name of it now. It's escaping me. But anyways, beautiful piece of art, and I think it goes great with the Hush statue. And then I've got a case here that have a few pieces in it. At one time I had a number of the DC Bombshells, and that started to get out of control, so I've only kept a couple of my favorites. Two that were gifts, the Harley Quinn Bombshell statue, the Harley Quinn DC Garage, I think that's called. And then the Batman, or Batwoman, sorry, Bombshell statue. And then in the back, a couple of CGC slabs. That you can see there. One of them a Neil Adams, an original Neil Adams, and the other one the homage. Then below that, I swap these out pretty frequently. I have the Batman Hush run, all CGC'd. Some of them Signature Series, some of them not. But I have them all CGC'd, so I tend to swap them out here and display them as when I get bored with them. I swap them out, put some fresh ones in. It's kind of fun. And then I have very few pops because I feel like that is just the crack of the collecting world. And that if I really got into it, I'd probably have hundreds of them, so I try to minimize that. I really like the ones I have, the Jim Lee ones and the Harley Quinn. And then I know I have one here that a lot of people talk about for some reason. My wife got me this for Christmas years ago, and I think it's really popular. Seems like I see it mentioned a lot. But anyways, love them. I'll hang on to them. They're fun. From there, a couple of other pieces of art I really love. This is the second Brian Rood piece that I have with the Dark Knight collage. This one I was super excited about. I got it from Sideshow. It came in, I opened it, and look at that number. Number 2 of 300. Typically the artist keeps number 1, so the fact that I got number 2 was super surprised and psyched to get this one. Love the art. Brian is a phenomenal artist. I'd suggest look him up. He's got a great story as well. Does phenomenal, not only DC and Marvel work, but he does a ton of Star Wars work that's really impressive. Then I have the Sideshow piece that I got not long ago of Harley and Joker. Love this interpretation, super, super cool, bright colors, awesome artwork. Added this guy just last week. First time I have a Marvel villain in my collection. Had to get him, just absolutely phenomenal. Thanos' role in the entire MCU Infinity Saga, just critical, and super glad to have him in the collection. Moving on, another one of my favorite artists is Adi Granof, and have both of the limited editions offered by Sideshow. These were two of the keyframes that really set the stage for what Iron Man, the first movie, would look like. As a matter of fact, in the one of the behind-the-scenes documentaries, Jon Favreau talks about this keyframe right here. That wasn't even originally in the script as a scene, but when he saw it, that's when they introduced the fighter jet scene with the Mach 3 getting knocked down and Iron Man saving the pilot and so forth. So that's pretty cool. Cool story there too. And then I have a number of MCU pieces here. Sideshow's Mach 2 maquette, which is awesome on the gantry. One of my favorite pieces. That's, I think, maybe it's among the first 5 quarter scales that I got from Sideshow. I have Iron Studios Cap from Age of Ultron. One of my favorite statues. Absolutely love this. The detail, if you guys haven't seen this thing in person, the detail and texturing on his suit and the likeness of the sculpt is off the charts. It's better than, I think it's better than Prime 1 even. I just think it's off the charts good. And on this one, I know sometimes Iron Studios bases leave a little to be desired. This one, phenomenal. That stump looks like real wood. The snow looks awesome. Just a fantastic job. And then the Mach 3 exclusive from Sideshow, the maquette. Love this piece, fantastic. Basically from Ironmonger up. The one piece of this statue that I really wasn't crazy about when I saw it, especially in person, was the base. I think that there's just a lot to be desired there. I think they could have done a lot more. Shouldn't look like sand. Should look like pavement based on the battle scene that this came from in the movie. But the rest of the base, the Ironmonger elements and the statue itself are just too good. And it's my favorite suit. Absolutely love it. Great piece. Not crazy about the exclusive here being the Ironmonger head, although I love the head. Again, the base kind of suffers from the same lack of detail. Wish it was not a proximity piece, wish it was incorporated into the base, but I guess that probably would have made the base absolutely huge. So it's big enough as it is. And then the Sideshow Hulk maquette. I love this piece. I know some people complain about the texture and color of his skin, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think the likeness to the Hulk in the movie and Ruffalo's character is just fantastic. Absolutely love this piece, and I think he's a great element to the collection. And then up top here on a shelf above, we've got Winter Soldier from Civil War, from Iron Studios Civil War collection. Winter Soldier and Falcon. Love both of these pieces. They are part of a diorama. That's why the bases look so similar. They're absolutely huge. Winter Soldier, the likeness to Sebastian is off the charts as usual, and also the Mackie likeness, which I'm trying to get in close here, but absolutely awesome, just fantastic. And then in the middle, another one of my favorite statues, because it looks so much like Scarlet. I think Gentle Giant did an awesome job on this one. I know this one's kind of harder to find, but fantastic statue. Base is a little weird. Wasn't always a big fan of this kind of basic crystal, kind of invisible almost base, but great statue. Sculpt is awesome. Pose is awesome. Very realistic. The texture of her suit is fantastic. Just incredible, and I think she goes great with these other quarter scales. And then the artwork that I have in the back is from Ryan Meinerding. Ryan is for those of you that don't know Ryan's the lead concept artist for Marvel. He and his team are responsible for developing the look of the suits and the cinematic interpretation and the look and feel of these characters for the movies. So have a keyframe that he did from Winter Soldier, and that's a keyframe concept design from the first Avenger. Now moving on to the last side of the room, got a few pieces of art. Have Sideshow's Joker and Harley up there, Alex Ross's Joker, and Gabriel Delato's piece. Right now up there I have the Suicide Squad Harley, and I know this isn't to scale and not meant to go with her, but I love this button loop from Tweeterhead. And then the Noel Batman, one of my favorite interpretations of the character and favorite artists in Lee Bermejo. Absolutely love his work. Just fantastic. And the space that you see in the middle there, if you're listening, Prime One, is for the Bermejo Joker. He will go right there someday, hopefully. And then moving down, I have some of the smaller, pieces in my collection. I have the original quarter scale Joker. You see some pictures of my kids. Some of the things that you see here were gifts from them from time to time. One of the hot toys that I just couldn't let go of was this 1/6 scale from the Dark Knight of the Armory. Absolutely love that. I just think it's awesome. And even though it's small, that one gets tons of comments from anybody that comes in the room. So, I love the black and white, so I won't go into all the individual artists that these represent, but try to kind of pick up the black and whites from my favorite artists. If I just collected black and whites, I'm afraid I'd fill up these boxes, and again, just love them all. The tumbler there was made by my son when he was about 10 years old, so I like to hang on to that one. It's awesome. The black and white there on the right is Tony Daniel's design. Absolutely love that. Tony Daniel, great guy. He's done some commission work for me. He's just a fantastic artist. Great interpretation of the character. And then Capullo's Joker over there. And then moving up, have a mask. And honestly, guys, don't remember where this one came from. My son and I were looking to build a cosplay costume and bumped into this one online. Honestly, I think my son found it, but it's a very hard, heavy mask, really well made. And then we kind of took it and scarred it up and gave it a little bit of patina, if you will. But absolutely love that. Fantastic piece. You can see a couple more of the black and whites from Arkham City and the new Batman Who Laughs. More black and whites here. As well as I have some of the bigger Batman omnibus books back there. Is the Arkham Saga. And down here some of the Jurassic World books. number of Absolutes and Omnis down there. Some weird little statue that we got. My wife and I were on vacation. And then moving up, some Capullo signed artwork there, print that picked up from a Comic-Con last summer. And then Two-Face here with a couple of placeholders. So we have the Arkham Knight bust from Prime 1. We have this one from Icon Heroes, the Bat Signal. And then Scarecrow. Great pieces. The space that you see here that's being currently occupied by Arkham Knight 1/3 bust and this Bat Signal, that's where I intend the Batman Who Laughs Prime 1 piece coming later this year. That's where that one will go. So guys, one last part of my room tour. This is a little extended tour. I know it's a little bit unorthodox by room tours, but wanted to introduce you to Cap. So in Tesla community and in our family, it is tradition to name our cars. This one is the first Avenger, and he is a 2018 build Tesla Model S. And as you can see, we've got some Cap decor that we've introduced into the garage here. But Cap is the first Avenger. And sorry, just trying to balance the camera. I'll try to get this on camera, but I don't know if you can zoom in there. There you go. Avenger 1 on the dorsal plates. Let's back up. Back away from the car, show you the back, which is kind of the fun part. A lot of people, more than you think, get it. The plate. So that is the end of the tour. Hope you guys like it.
So guys, thanks for watching the video. Thanks for taking the tour of Wayne Manor North. And thanks to Chris, the Batman statue collector. So great to be here as this month's featured statue collector. And he'll see you next time in the Batcave.